Welcome to the Quintessential Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Quinn Shalloway. In today's episode, I have on Rotelle Builders with Peter Rotelle and Sheila. And one of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation is because I think with low inventory, people are looking toward this this idea of building homes themselves rather than competing against everybody and their mother to buy these older style homes. And I thought it'd be fun to have you guys on and just talk about what the process starts like and how it ends, and some of the pitfalls, pros, cons of all of this, just so we can have a full understanding of what it would look like, because it's all about managing expectations. And if you're equipped for it, it's a lot easier. So yeah, you guys can just introduce yourselves and share a little bit about your experience in custom home building.
Well, my name is Peter Rotelle, President, CEO of Rotelle Development Company. We're more of a builder than a developer these days. We changed our business model back in 2008 to really focus on custom homes, to be able to give obtainable custom homes to buyers where you don't have to be a multimillionaire to be able to buy a custom home. It kind of lined up perfectly where the public companies, where we have 7 in our marketplace, started to really cut back on what options that you could pick in a house. And we felt that the joy of building a new home is to be able to change that house and tweak it to fit your lifestyle exactly. So as they were ratcheting back, we decided we would ratchet up more, and we put together a business model based all around that. And with that, we put together a tremendous sales force that understands how we do that. It's a unique process, and it's enjoyable for the consumer to be able to go through that process and end up with something with the exact square footage and the exact amenities in the house that fits their lifestyle. And we've been refining it over the last, a little more than a decade, and we really feel like right now we're hitting stride with delivering a product with a good explanation on exactly how we do it at an obtainable price point.
I'm Sheila Contento. So I actually was a previous home expert for Rotelle, and then just recently kind of came back to oversee the sales team and kind of look at possibly expanding our reach a little bit and kind of refining some things. So I'm back as of about a month, but I've been in the home industry for about two and a half years.
Yeah, before we fully get into this, I mean, I think that's a good differentiator from the other, like you said, you had 7 other companies in this area who do the same type of work that you do, but you're more niche. It sounds like you found exactly the need, maybe some are more cookie cutter. That probably gets thrown around a lot.
And maybe I didn't explain it properly. We have 7 public companies in our marketplace that are building communities. That term is used. It's called tract housing.
Okay.
So you come into a community, there could be 10 to 20 to 200 lots. You have a choice of 5 different floor plans and a couple different elevations. That is, I was saying, in our marketplace. What we do and how we do it with custom homes on spot lots, there are a few other companies who do what we do, but full service, kind of with a red bow around it, where we actually, and we can get into that later when you're asking more questions, exactly the process that allows people to be able to buy a home. We work through the financing. We work through what the site improvement costs are going to be. We source land, whether it's in the MLS or some stuff we have in inventory, or we put you on a wait list and we try to find something and dig it up. So that process all the way through until you get your final walkthrough and we turn the keys over to you is a pretty cumbersome process, and we figured an excellent way how to streamline that to make it really easy for the consumer, but there's a tremendous amount of heavy lifting that goes on. So our staff is a lot greater than it would be building the number of houses that we do if we were just building in a community, because we have people who are running permitting processes that are working on making sure that the environmental stuff and everything on the property is done properly. So we have a tremendous amount of work that's being done behind the scenes that allows the consumer to go through and have an enjoyable process without trying to pull their hair out and get educated on a lot of things that are very complicated that take place when you buy a building lot on how to get that approved to be able to put a house on it. We have a lot of regulation that goes on. So we're up to snuff with that, and to even make it more confusing, each municipality has its own set of rules and regulations. So we deal with the local municipality, we deal with the state, we deal with federal, and everything that you need to do for permitting. And it sounds like a daunting task, but the beautiful thing is at Rotelle, that's not a customer's concern. We just want to educate you on what the cost is going to be and what the time frame is going to be, and then we do the heavy lifting behind the scenes to make it all happen. But it's an arduous process that continues to get a little more difficult each year as more regulation comes up. And we have a tremendous staff that goes ahead and makes sure that we're on top of that to be able to really break that down in simple terms and explain what the process is going to be, and then do the work behind the scenes for that. And that's what Sheila and her team does a wonderful job with.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to get in the first thing. Everybody talks money. So how does, financing a new build differ from buying an existing home? Like when a client comes to you, whether maybe they own the land or maybe they want to buy some land and then develop, what do those products look like?
Yeah. So traditionally, there's been a 30-year fixed mortgage, and you go to, and you can shop that out, whether it's on the internet or whether it's local banks or with a broker. And it's a one-time close, and it's a package deal with the house and the land that comes with it. There always has been something called a construction to permanent financing loan, and that's been around for decades. However, in the last probably 10 years, that process has gotten very streamlined. It used to be a pretty cumbersome endeavor. You would get a construction loan, the bank would finance that, they would come out, they would reappraise the house, and then you would roll, and then you would apply and get a 30-year mortgage. And it would be a two separate loan process. A little scary, a little nerve-wracking, two different steps. However, in the last decade, that loan, the construction to perm loan process, has been streamlined to a one-time close. So the appraisal for the property as a package with the land and the house is done up front. The bank or the lending institution will go ahead and approve you for the loan, and they will start giving you draws on the land acquisition. And then as the construction commences and goes through the process, that there are certain stages that the bank will then release draws to the builder for that process. During that time frame, the customer will pay the interest on that. And when the house is complete and we get the use and occupancy permit, which is the blessing from the township or the municipality that says, hey, this place is safe to move in, we've inspected everything, it's up to code, and we can turn the keys over. Well, at that point, that loan then goes to a 30-year fixed. There's not another close. It's already done. And one of the awesome things in today's environment is that loan over that time frame, and let's just say that's a 1-year process. By the time that you come to us, you do land acquisition, we go through everything, and we build the house. If mortgage rates drop during that period, the bank that we're not affiliated with any bank, but what we do is we vet different banks on a yearly basis. The CFO does of the company and looks for two different things. Primarily is what are the rates? The process of the loan needs to be simple, and to make certain that and the customer service is fantastic. Okay, and because that part we feel is really important, because if we're going to be recommending them, that they're a branch of us. However, we have no affiliation with that, but what we do is we just shop that. So again, this is us doing the heavy lifting behind the scenes. Yeah. So when you come in, I mean, you're dealing with a really professional organization that is thought about everything behind the scenes to make sure that this consumer experience is going to be nothing but top-notch and excellent. Yeah. So, and with that, each year, and it happens to be that, we've been with the bank that we recommend, and it has been with us for several years. They do a fantastic job. They know our process. They're very, very customer service oriented, so any questions or concerns a consumer may have, that they're there to answer. So that's the primary differences, but they're very similar today, and it's made it an easy process.
Yeah, I think that's a good point you make about not being affiliated, but having trusted partners in a process like this. There's no kickbacks, but the reason why you recommend or use, different people is like, because they do exactly what they say they're going to do. And, you can pass them off and there's going to be no issues down the line. Or if there is an issue, they'll meet it head on with you. And it's good to have partners like that. And in a process that could take, 6 or 12 months, God forbid, it's good to have people like that who are problem solvers.
Sure.
So the banks that you work with, are they primarily like local banks, or like how do you kind of vet that?
Well,
Because I know portfolio lenders like in the area, like smaller banks
Sure.
definitely have other types of products and whatnot, and people look to those.
One of the things we do like to look for is local banks that it's boots on the ground. You can call up, you can talk to someone. That's always been my belief, just in business in general, is and even with banking institutions on our side, has been I like dealing with a size company or a financial institution where we're kind of a bigger fish in a smaller pond. And with that, I feel that we really get attention. We're not a number. And we have the availability to call senior management and or the president and CEO of the bank to be able to have hard discussions that need to be versus different levels of management instead of, we can go right to the top. We take that same philosophy and we pass that along with regards to using local lenders that have great programs, customer service. Mm-hmm. Most of the time, or lots of times, that bank is going to be serviced in-house. So not to get too complicated and deep into the lending dynamics, but just it lets you know that when you have a loan and God forbid something were to happen with escrows or something, in year 2, that you're not calling Bangladesh and having communication problems trying to get a problem resolved, that you're with a local where you could actually go in and visit and see someone, and we feel that that's important.
I think, one question that comes to mind, so after we talk about all that, and I compare it, when I'm talking with clients about buying a existing home versus a new construction, is the money that you have to put up front versus the money it's like, okay, we put this money in escrow account and then we go to close and we get financing. So maybe, Sheila, can you talk to like the typical like down payment and like budget expectations of a new construction, maybe payment schedules, things like that? Like what liquidity does a client of yours like need to have, or expectation for that? Because that's the one thing that I just don't think is just not known, really, unless they get into it, and then it can sometimes be overwhelming.
Sure. So Rotelle approaches kind of our deposit structure more so in tandem with what they're looking to achieve with regards to their home. So we have kind of 2 different set structures with regards to the deposit that's required at the time of contract signing with us. And I think one of the really nice things that we do to kind of help buyers get an early gauge of that is we have something that actually becomes part of the contract as we move forward with a buyer in that regard. But prior to contract signing, we have a document that kind of allows our buyers to get a really good understanding and pulse of the costs that they're going to be moving forward with regard to their home build, and options that they know that they want to engage on, changes that they might want to make relative to the plan, so that they have a really good, grasp of the contract number, and in turn what the appropriate deposit would be prior to moving forward with Rotelle. So kind of going back to what Peter touched upon, I think that we do a really good job of early education to our buyers to make sure that it is a transparent kind of process from the jump, just to make sure that they know exactly what is going to be going forward with regards to their home build, and in turn where they kind of fall relative to our deposit structure.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So the type of, when you're talking about, maybe creative financing, or someone who owns a home and they want to build a home on one of your spec lots or something, what types of, it's like, all right, you've got this amount in a checking account. Are there other options that you can kind of say, hey, have you thought about doing this as kind of a way to supplement those installments, like the down payment, things like that, to get it rolling until you actually sell the house to move into this home, and then we have the full mortgage?
I believe there are creative ways to kind of approach that, and that's kind of where our lenders more so kind of come into play. The deposit that we take with contract signing is more so what we use to kind of get kickstarted with regards to the land development and the permitting process. Because again, as Peter said, we're more so set up to be a one-stop shop.
Yeah.
So that money is accounted for at the time that we put together that Exhibit C document to really make sure that our buyers have a really good comprehensive understanding of what they're contracting with us, and more so their all-in costs, just to make sure that we're educating them to stay true to the budget that they're comfortable with. That deposit that they provide at time of contract signing is what our in-house permitting team then uses to begin the due diligence associated with acquiring their building permit before we're actually able to break ground.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and just to add to that, in that vetting process, when we do choose a financial institution that we recommend, and you can use anyone you want, we are phenomenal builders, right? We are not finance companies.
Yeah.
So what we do is and I think Sheila answered, I just wanted to add on top of that is that we have those that we recommend that really are going to get into the weeds with you. And tell you creative ways that you can go ahead and make this happen and pull the dream off. And anything we can do to support that, certainly we're there on the sidelines. But really, that's kind of what we rely on the professionals to do on the financing side, to be able to give them really good guidance on how we can get this done as a team together, and give them the best advice and guidance. So at the end of the day, Rotelle has the opportunity to go ahead and build them a house. We're in the home building industry. And a lot of different large companies, like if and I'll use the public companies as an example. Again, there's a lot of different profit centers for those companies, along the way. They buy the land, they develop it, they're making money on the land. They're recommending their title company, they make money on the title company. They're recommending a mortgage company, they're making money on that. They have lumber companies in the back that are making the trusses and the lumber. So there could be up to 7 or 8 different profit centers. The wonderful thing about the Rotelle and the way that we do it is everything that we do and we're cut out for is to make the experience obtainable for the consumer, and we're not tied into it. We build houses. We make a living doing that. We're not going to retire on building one house. So our goal is to develop a really good system that makes it an enjoyable process. We get to see that, in return with repeat customers. Yeah. And every year, that number grows as the company gets larger. We're celebrating our 35th year in business.
Wow.
So every year, it's awesome to hear a story. Hey, listen, we built 10 years ago with you. It was a great experience. We built in a neighborhood. That's primarily what we did. We developed ground and we built in neighborhoods. Yeah. We really love the opportunity too. And then they would describe their situation. And each year that number of repeat customers is a testament to how we try to make the right decision on everything that we do, whether it's with the buying process, whether it's with customer service, or it's with the warranty program. Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty neat.
Yeah. One point I'll make about the being around for 35 years, you have to be good and present a good product. And I am confident, when I'm taking someone through and I go, oh, this is actually a Rotelle home from 10 years ago. And we can look at the different finishes and, we know, that matters in these localized communities where they'll point out these different small builders. And, from my end, when specific types of builders, when an agent gets a specific type of builder's home that they're going to be listing, they'll be talking about that. And I'll see that with Rotelle. And that's always a really good sign from the local, consumer that you are recognized as someone who cares about their work. But getting back to just like different.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
We don't hear that a ton.
Hey,
you know what we like? It's really nice to hear because family owned and operated, and we truly, we try our best. Are we perfect? Absolutely not. Yeah. But we're there for the long run, and if we've done something wrong, we're there to make it right. That's like I said, we don't retire on a home, in one sale or two sales. So in today's day and age, to be around for 35 years with social media and everything, it's tough. It's tough. So we do, and we deliver a great product. So to hear that, you being in the industry puts a smile on my face. You made my day.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. All right. So let's kind of talk about like the pre-building just considerations, like clients who maybe they have a piece of land and they reach out to you and say, hey, I want to, we've talked a little bit about this, but I want to develop and build on this lot. What does that conversation from you guys to them look like, and costs? Like, how I know that you basically go right into it and kind of get an idea of what pricing is going to look like. So what does that kind of entail? And
yeah, I'll let Sheila answer that, because she's in the trenches and dealing with that process and how it goes, and isn't necessarily selling today. She's overseeing the sales team and just does an amazing job with it. When she was selling, I'll let her.
Good. That's why you're both here.
Yeah,
that's why you're both here.
Yeah, which is cool. Nice dynamic.
So I think one of, I guess the best learnings for me when I first got into this was kind of the initial kind of knee-jerk understanding of there's two costs of the land and the home and pairing those. And it was a really good and quick learning that I had, that there's a whole nother cost component that oftentimes buyers aren't necessarily aware of, that they should be really kind of counting for when it comes to their custom home build, and more so than anything, their budget. Mm-hmm. That third cost component is going to really kind of vary on a lot of different things relative to the ground, but it's the land development costs, or basically what it's going to take to prep the land for build, taking into account the water, the sewer, the driveway, tree clearing, if there's existing structures that need to be removed or demolished, which is something that we do as well, and it's coming up more and more frequently as well. And I think having an early and pretty solid pulse on what that cost is going to look like is really crucial for buyers to understand, because it can be incredibly impactful to a buyer's budget, and in turn, where they're going to land with regards to not only the home plan that's going to work within the budget, but also how much flexibility they're going to have for all the fun upgrades and kind of future development options that they might want to kind of take on. We've created a tool that has been refined a couple times over, to Peter's point, with changing market dynamics, just to make sure that we're always providing the most accurate numbers possible with regards to what those costs are, not only based on this general area, but as specific to the county that our buyers are looking to build, so that as buyers come to us and either have land that they possess or are looking to put an offer in on a piece of ground, we're able to do what we call a scrub, or a kind of preliminary land analysis, to kind of give them that early estimation of what we believe is going to be required in order to develop the ground for build. It's a really good way for buyers to understand what ground is going to work, and in turn what home plan is going to work, before they necessarily move forward to locking in anything. Mm-hmm. With items that kind of go into the build process, especially with raw land that has on-site septic, we are also a very conservative builder, and that we will always, unless we know otherwise, kind of take an approach that's going to kind of assume worst case scenarios, so that we are kind of arming our buyers with, hey, we don't know X, Y, and Z, because there hasn't been pre-work, there hasn't been testing. It truly is raw ground. But assuming worst case scenario, this would be the number that you should assume, but there could be a swing of X number of dollars. So we really do try to take that advantage point of giving our buyers as much education as possible prior to making a move on ground.
Yeah. And I don't know how common that is in the industry. I mean, it's a lot of upfront work where you don't necessarily get the job. If an agent is, basically, if I have someone, hey, they want to buy land, and then you give them a couple different reputable builders, and, you're going out and still doing the scrub that you're talking about. I don't know what the other developer is doing, but that's a lot of work that sometimes, doesn't pay out, other than we're just doing what we think is right. I mean, that's a really unique thing that you do. And sometimes it probably is sticker shock to some people, but it's like we want to educate them.
Sure. Well, twofold. Yeah, you picked up on it really quick. We do a lot scrub. We have it trademarked. We came up with it, and it's put together, and it's been developed over 12 years of adding to it. It's continuously a work in progress, and it easily allows us to go ahead and determine what those site costs are going to be. So you buy a piece of ground, we can give you a number on the house. You really have to look at it as if we really just pick that house up and drop the house onto a piece of ground. What are the other costs going to be involved outside of those two? And stormwater management, underwater retention basins. So it just, septic, whether it's well or septic could be on the other side of the street that we have to tie into. So it gets very confusing. But again, back at the office, okay, we have this lot scrub, and we can pretty quickly kick it out. Now, no one is doing that. We don't have any competition on it. And it sounds easy. We've seen companies get involved, try to mimic it, and then they stop the process, because it takes a team of people behind the scenes that are very educated, and it is it's a formula that we use that has been put together and refined over, like I said, 12 years, and it's tricky. It's tough to do, but sometimes it gets into someone else's hands, and people are aware that we use it, and they come to us and they use it, and then they go to another builder and they think that they're gonna do it for less, and so we do a lot of hard work sometimes, and we don't end up getting the build. But again, there's a lot more to Rotelle than just our lot scrub. It's a pretty in-depth process, and we've actually seen in instances where people come in, they take it, they go to another builder, the deal blows up, and then they come back to us, and we end up building the house, because the whole system that Rotelle does is all-inclusive, and it really has a red bow on every segment all the way through the process.
Yeah. My question would be, okay, so for the design of the home, and just like hiring an architect, different things like that, some companies will say, hey, hire the architect to build it out or get those things done. Do you guys have in-house for that? Or how is like the company structured with, because I think that's also another part is, building out the team so the client doesn't have to cut multiple checks to multiple people, right? That's probably something worth just having more in-house. So what do you have for clients?
Yeah, so when you come in, if there's a couple different ways that you can attack this. We have, I don't know, couple dozen, 36. I'm not quite sure. We have a lot of plans that you can choose from, and you can go ahead and tweak those plans with, making the house wider and smaller, and make a lot of different changes to it. And most of the time, we find that there's only so many different configurations really you can do on 25 or 3,500 square feet. Yeah. So we a lot of the times, and for the majority of the times, we have floor plans that can be massaged to fit your lifestyle that we have, and then we make those changes in-house. We have an in-house architect, and then we send those when everything is completely finalized. We send the plans out to an out-of-house architect that does final construction drawings. There are buyers who come in who want to go fully custom. They want to be a part of it. It's an exciting thing. And we start from scratch, a blank piece of paper. They sit down, they have meetings with our in-house architect, and they run in that direction. So so we have the best of both worlds really there.
So I would say, is it a fully custom or like pretty much fully custom, just semi? Because I look at like the developments where they just have, this is what it is, and then you can, pick your furnishings and different things like that. I guess it can be much more involved with your approach.
It's an interesting question, because there really, in the industry, there isn't anything that is a fine definition that segregates the difference between track, semi-custom, and custom. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you can kind of say whatever you'd like to say, but really, there's no definition to go ahead and say that's right or wrong. Yeah. We are a custom builder. And as I said, as we've gone through inflation and we've seen a lot of different things change in the world in the last 5 years, that a lot of the larger builders are actually removing any changes whatsoever, where 5 years ago they would allow you to push a wall, they would allow you to change outlets, they would allow you to go through an option list and do 50 different things. Those builders now, you can't move an outlet, you can't move a window. You can't make it larger. A lot of houses are being built and penalized in off-site, shipped to the site, and then go ahead and assemble kind of like a Lego set. So any changes are prohibited because it doesn't work back in the factory. With us, if you've seen something that you like and you want to make changes, that we certainly will allow for that. Are we 100% custom where you can get travertine from a certain village in Italy? No, that's not our cup of tea. Our sweet spot is like that 7 figures, under and over in that area, pretty much between $800,000 and $2.5 million. Anything that's above that, we're great at what we do. But if you came in and you said that, you wanted a $5 million and it's a modern house and it has glass and, we would probably recommend you to someone else that would be better capable of it. But if, and I hate giving business away, but I also know it's hard to keep a reputation. And when we start to branch out and do things that we don't understand and don't know, we're not going to be able to do a great job with that.
Yeah. Knowing what you're good at and having that niche down is, that's the way to do it, because it's always going to be repeatable success.
Yeah. Let me bounce back to one thing to add in, and Sheila can kind of go over this a little, and maybe depth is, we're talking about money and customer and how to know what they can afford. One of the biggest things for us is we really would like to know what your budget is, and if you're thinking just in general, if you ask the question, it's like, keep it close to the vest. Like, they're going to spend We do not ask that question for any reason to be self-benefiting. The reason that we want to ask that question is our job wholeheartedly and single-handedly is to make sure that you stay on budget and you put in your house everything that you can to make you happy and to give you joy. And that is it. And if your budget is much greater than what you share with us, that's awesome. But what your budget is for the house itself, our goal is to direct you and keep you in that, because a lot of times it's easy to want to put more and more things in, and then you end up designing and building a home that then you can't afford, and you feel like you're getting shorthanded, and now you have to start taking things out of that home, and you're like, well, we're giving this away.
Yeah.
Well, it's only on paper. You never really had it, but but it's a psychological thing. So our goal and the sales staff and what Sheila trains the home experts is to really build a relationship and open and allow them to be honest with us. And when they do that, we can really shine and do a wonderful job with them to keep them and have them put everything in the house that's going to fit their lifestyle perfectly and keep them on budget. That's what we want to do.
One thing, and I think it's just important to talk about, situations that I've experienced with other builders. And one that I had was, and I was on the call for just the initial, just everything. And the person who was taking them through was, let's put in everything that you want and we can basically take that away. But if we put it in now, then it will be less costly versus adding it later. And at the end of it, it was well over $100,000 more than they were willing to spend. And they're like, but if we do this here, then it will be cheaper. And I just thought that was a really kind of bait and switch way to kind of sell. And that was in a development. So it's a different type of, transaction, I would think. But, when you're giving all of this money to a builder to, build your biggest financial, purchase or whatever it's going to be, I think it really matters, the transparency of it all. And that really turned me off to that specific builder. And, that could have just been a sales rep who that's what they did. But they really got to have the consumer in mind here, because they're the one making the payment. And we know interest rates buying power is definitely gone down in the last few years because of how interest rates are. But that's just something I always keep top of mind.
Yeah, well, one of the great things that the Salesforce does is if it gets to a point and budget is starting to become tight with your must-haves, is we really want to give you good guidance and advice on saying, hey, this is something, like, if it's structural, you should do it now, okay? But if it's something to do with some special trim work or something that you call for ceiling or something that you wanted to do in a room, say, hey, this is something that, in 2 or 3 years, once you get into the home, it's something that you can add pretty easily at the end. So, we do look at their list, and we try to make sure that we're making the decisions we're making from them will be the same decisions, and this is with everything in the company, it would be the same decision I would make for myself. And, that's transparency, it's honesty, and we've always found that that's been best, because we will have situations where architects design houses, and this isn't just once, it's not twice, it's double digits every year, where someone comes with an architectural plan that was designed for them that we price out that's 6 figures over their budget. And I think that we are extremely competitive. I know we are extremely competitive with our pricing. It's when an architect designs a house, and I'm not putting architects down, they do a wonderful job, but when it comes down to dollars and cents and budgeting, there's usually a disconnect there. And I can't stress enough, and Sheila, you can add to this, it's one of the most important things we do when we meet with a client up front, is to make sure that we're both on the same page with budgets, because it's a waste of their time and a waste of our time if we're putting something together they can't build. And that we've found that somebody who's really qualified that could build a beautiful home ends up not going in that direction, because they feel like they're stripping so many things out of the house that they think they have to have, that it ends up being discouraging. Yeah. And that's not what it's about. It's completely opposite of that. So it's a little bit psychological, but and this doesn't happen. This is just speaking from years and years of experience in doing this. I mean, anything to add to that, Sheila?
I think one of the best things that Rotelle offers with regards to our sales team is we really kind of approach it from a consultant kind of perspective. We aren't selling you the home. We want to kind of help you understand what is going to work best for you and your family more so than anything. And as Peter said, we do have a portfolio of roughly 30 different existing home plans, which probably are the large majority of kind of the launch or starting point for our buyers, because the resource that we offer with Blake, our in-house architect, is the advantage of kind of having a plan that we've already kind of given you a good starting point and footprint that Blake can kind of come into the conversation and help you get it to the finish line from there, whether that be adding square footage, moving windows around, kind of remodifying the areas of the home that you know that you and your family are going to be enjoying the most, whether that be the kitchen or the family room or outdoor recreation options. I think that we do a really good job of kind of making each home unique to each buyer. And cookie cutter really isn't what we do. I think even though we have a portfolio of 30 different plans, we've never built the same home twice, and that's for a reason. And I think that we're able to really kind of achieve each buyer's kind of unique vision within their unique budgets, kind of with that approach and kind of helping guide them throughout that process from the start.
Let me just tack one thing on that I did say that I want to make sure is clear is, we are custom, and as Sheila described, that is the majority of our buyers and how they go through the process. We go completely blank canvas. We offer that product, and certainly we do that, and we do a wonderful job. It puts it into a different price category because it's a house that we've never built before, and that there's a whole different process that gets involved with doing that. It's not that it's not obtainable. It's just where we really shine is in what Sheila said. But, we still do a tremendous amount of the blank canvas, meet with the architect and start from scratch. Most of the time, I'm going to say we're going to have something that you're going to love, and you're going to want to tweak it to fit you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think, too, with that, and if people are going to be comparing, a Rotelle build compared to a development and cost with that, is people discount just how much it is to actually buy and develop the land rather than just buying it off of the developer essentially, and then they bundle it in. It is more expensive. And I think it would be interesting to also talk about, you know, a lot of times people are putting you know, offers in on land with, you know, these discovery periods, contingencies. And I found it really helpful and giving kind of security to a buyer is the addendum you guys give out. Sure. That really is ironclad, that if we can't build what we want to build, we're able to get out. Because that's the hardest part is like, okay, I think this is the spot. You know, it's on the hill. It's the overlook I'm looking for, or I can build my pool. And it's like, all right, let's take a beat here. And now we're going to do the due diligence portion. So, I mean, maybe talk a little bit to that, because that was something I found that is unique. Now, a seller might not like that, but
sure,
it is what it is. I tell people, I'm like, land is not easy to sell. You have to find someone who's equipped to buy it, but we need to make sure the plan is set.
Yeah. No, it's a great point. And so one of the things that we do offer is we do offer an addendum that allows you to buy a piece of ground that has us giving us the opportunity to start our due diligence on it on behalf of the customer. And that due diligence process is pretty in-depth. And at the end of the day, it's saying how much it's going to cost you to build, and can you build for sure on this process. Now, there are certain pieces of ground, and there's certain times where sellers say, hey, we don't want to give the due diligence, and you have a little more of an educated buyer, and they say, we're willing to take this risk. We try to do an expedited due diligence to check off some key areas to make sure that, you know, we can protect you as much as possible. But that's all part of something that we call the Rotelle Protection Program, the Purchase Protection Program, where we provide the addendum on the purchase to make sure that we can get a building permit for it. We guarantee at a certain point, once we ratify the site improvement costs, we guarantee that that's what the site costs are going to be. So, you know, the last thing someone wants to see is a bunch of surprises and financial surprises. So the only thing we can't really guarantee is anything that would be an concealed condition.
Yeah.
So if there was something to do under the earth that we just haven't had the ability, that's just something we can't protect you on. An example for that may be rock. Does it happen? Yeah. Does it happen often? No, it doesn't. We've built in the southeastern PA. We kind of know what to be heads up on and what not to be. But we've been surprised before. And but and I do want to add that you said a little more costly, but I will say this: when you're not buying in a community, and it comes time to get your house appraised, and you're a one-off, you absolutely, unequivocally, hands down, have an opportunity to have 6 figures of an appraisal greater than what you did on the package deal of buying the ground, the site improvement costs, and the Rotelle cost of the home. And we've seen that happen over and over. Is it guaranteed? No, it's not. But if you're buying in a house and you spend $200,000, or you're buying in a community and you spend $200,000 in options, and your neighbor spends $20,000, I can assure you the guy who spent $200,000 is going to appraise for less, and the person who bought the $20,000 in options is going to appraise for more. You're kind of going to be in that spot that community sells for, and it is what it is. So I love opportunities where you can have lifestyle and a good financial decision. And to me, I think this process checks off both those boxes. You can have equity in your house because you kind of piecemealed it together, and then you have a house that you love that fits exactly what you want. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I love that point about the appraisal versus
and
the
that's,
development. I mean, that's what people want. You know, they want that this is going to be worth more than it is now, like in a year, or just when the actual appraisal for, when you move in and you get your mortgage, like it'd be great if you see higher than what your costs were. So I love that. I mean, that's a great selling point.
Yeah. And you know what? I don't even know if we push that often, but it's reality. I mean, that's a fact.
Well, it's setting. It's, I'll go on, listing appointments, and one is, the hardest part. Now I'll say this too, development sizes lot sizes are just going down because builders are trying to make as much money as they can. So, hey, you're on a 1/4 acre lot as opposed to a 2 acre lot. I just had one the other day where it was a 2 acre lot, in Chester County. And I said, you have the benefit of you've kept up with your home for all these years, and you're now competing against 1/2 acre lots that don't have the setting. And that's what you get when you decide to build on a specific lot of land. It's much bigger, and it has personality and maybe mature trees.
Yeah.
And that the reason why I brought up the addendum was I just recently got done a build with you guys that we needed that addendum. Mm-hmm. I mean, we had so many issues. We put it under contract in July of last year, and we just closed, I think, like 3 weeks ago. And the amount of work it took to deal with the township, that was on a state road, so setbacks were different. I mean, if we didn't have that, we would have fallen out of contract, or they would have been able to go. Also, if they wanted to sell it, they were going to have to do it with us. So because we were willing to do it, but just be able to have that just backbone of, no, this is not done yet. We're going to push settlement until we know for sure that we can do what we're planning to do. And that was really helpful for my buyers.
Yeah, well, that's great. So that's like, that's real life.
I mean, he had to go to, the township meeting to plead his case, but, there were a couple different instances, but we were just very grateful that you guys have provided that.
Well, and think about that if they were to have closed on it. Okay, one, just take into consideration a couple things outside of the financial. I mean, you can figure the finances out pretty quick. 15 months, you said, they put it on a contract. So 15 months carrying that at 6-8%, whatever the bank would be charging. So just a loan right there, that's financial impact. But outside of that, how much did it steal from you inside from anxiety? Like, are we going to be able to get a bill? This was a bad decision. Who wants to go through that? Right. Yeah. So I like that real life example you just cited, and it goes to show our buyer protection program. It works,
Mm-hmm.
and again, we're the only building company that's doing that.
Yeah.
And by the way, that is all 100% free of charge. Now you have the buyer has to pay for the consultants and for all that work, but we do 100% of that work on behalf of the buyer, so we have the opportunity to build them a house. Mm-hmm. Think about that. Absolutely no one is doing that.
Yeah. No, that's great. One thing that I find hard for new construction, the conversation around it, is there's no real definitive answer to what your taxes are going to be. And that's like one of the major drawbacks I find with a new build. How do you kind of coach the people through that question? I know that's more financial, but and why? Like, why can't I call the county and they'll actually give me a number if I can give them the specs? Like, it's a year later they give you the value. I mean, you're kind of you're taking a little bit of a chance. But I'm just curious from your perspective.
My take on that is, again, this is another great opportunity, and another reason to do this is because you're buying a piece of ground. Let's just say it's $150,000. It gets recorded as $150,000. That's what's on the books. It's a private contract. You spend $2 million or $1 million on the house. Nowhere is that number shown. Okay, so they're going to send an appraiser out who's going to go around the house. They're going to measure the square footage, and they're going to come up and they're going to give you, you're going to get your bill. At that point, you can decide to fight that, or you can accept that. I had an experience, with that, where the majority of the time, if you're doing nice appointments on a home, it's going to come in below market. Can I guarantee that? I can't. Because each appraisal, and a lot of it comes down to sometimes the school district will challenge it, but each county is different. But if you're in a community and you buy a package deal with a house and a lot, and it's $500,000 package or $1 million package, they can tell you exactly what your taxes are going to be. Mm-hmm. In our situation, since the only recording there is the land transfer.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if you're going with a really nice appointed house, you have an opportunity to go ahead and come up with a number that's probably below market.
Yeah. I guess from the builder side, like what challenges are you kind of facing kind of just in the macroeconomic, like, you know, I think that's during COVID to where you are now. I mean, that's something really interesting. You know, just we saw lumber prices, like that was a big conversation. I mean, how do you guys kind of budget for that, or just, you know, talk through that from a strategy side? I mean, is it just kind of take the deals as they come and the price is what it is at that moment?
It's a great question, and I'll take COVID for example, because that's probably the most drastic time that we've seen spikes in materials and supplies. And you sign a contract. We change our prices usually once a year, and we lock you into it, and that is it. After a year, we have the opportunity to go ahead and document. So do we do that? We really don't. You know, again, we're not going to retire in a house, and we're not retiring in a year. We're in business to make a fair profit, to make sure that the money is the company is sustainable, to go ahead and warrant that house, whether it's in a year or we're around in 3 years or whatever it may be, for you to call up and say, you know, with questions. Sometimes we get hit on the chin, and we took it hard there with lumber prices. And then when they ended up coming down, somebody comes in and says, well, we know what the prices are. It's a law of averages. It's the same thing we do if you come in with a buyer broker, and we embrace the real estate community. I know right now there's big changes with regards to who is going to be paying the commission for the on the buyer side. Let it be known, Rotelle supports the real estate community, and we will pay any buyer who has an agent that comes in to buy a house from Rotelle. It's not something we're changing. You guys have made us been partners of ours for decades, and we're not throwing you under the bus. So we're unleashing a program called We Got Your Back, and that's what we're going to do. So back to the...
Thank you.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I there's not a lot of inventory, so some builders might just say, hey,
well, yeah, look at Ryan Homes.
Buyer's agents be damned.
Yep.
I mean, we're going to offer, or you'll see just very low amounts. And, I'd like to think that I have some value, or maybe they came to this because of my education.
For sure.
You know?
Yeah. And so we appreciate, we do. And we have your backs on that. And back to my point of departure was someone comes in and they say, I'm not working with a real estate agent. I want 3% off. And we say, great, but our houses are priced because we have 60% of our buyers buy with a real estate agent, 40% don't, and our houses are priced in there. So it's not you. We deal collectively, and that's how and that ties into the same philosophy with price increases from suppliers and trades. We price our houses out in the beginning of the year. If there's anything that is outrageous during the year, say there's a terrible fire and it shuts down a couple drywall plants or something like that, we need to make minor adjustments. Yeah. We do that, but at the end, if you're locked in and you sign a contract, you're locked in.
No, I think that's also a good point too, where it's not any benefit to you to not try to get as many smart, educated people in the industry to help you with your transaction. Like, you guys aren't pricing, you're not giving a discount for someone who comes in unrepresented. It's like, we want you to be, fully equipped to make this the easiest possible transaction. And sure. I really like that, because it encourages an informed consumer the whole way through. And it makes it easier for you too.
Yeah.
No, I like that. That's really good. All right. So I guess building different times of year, how long? So what obstacles from weather? I mean, we haven't had rain in like 60 days, but when there's lots of rain, how can these custom home build, how long does it take to build a home? That's what people always ask. And I know that's a very nuanced question, and I'll have a nuanced answer, but how would you answer that?
Yeah, I'm gonna let Sheila answer that and see if there's anything I have to add. But
okay.
So there's basically two different stages to the build process. The first one is obviously one that we do in-house, which is going to be the permitting due diligence process. And that traditionally spans anywhere from 4 to 6 months until we acquire your building permit. That being said, a lot of it really depends on the ground.
Okay.
If it's raw ground, it's a very fair window to assume. However, we are also finding buyers with ground that have already had some preliminary engineering done, perk testing done, and all of those things, especially if they're still valid for us to use, is not only a cost savings element, which we would account for when it comes to our scrub, but it also can shave some time from the due diligence kind of perspective. There are certain elements, to your point, that weather can play a part in when we're able to do certain testing. We do our best to kind of work around that, and we have a really good vetted team of engineers that our permitting team relies on based on the territory of build, so that we have that kind of direct relationship to ensure that we're moving as quickly as possible on behalf of our buyers and pivoting when and how we need to when weather comes into play. The more consistent kind of element to that process is going to be the build window, which is normally 5 to 6 months. Once we get the building permit, you can expect to have keys in your hand.
Yeah, and great answer. I mean, and on the money. But that 5 to 6 month window that we give takes into consideration anything that we may come up with, whether it's going to be snow, whether it's going to be a lot of rain. Once we start to build, we're pretty darn accurate with exactly delivering that house on time.
Yeah. And it sounds like the lines of communication are always open, and you're always communicating with your clients, and that's a great thing. And I don't have any more questions, but I guess just one last little final pitch about Rotelle, and we can wrap it up.
Yeah, well, you didn't ask, and maybe you did, but there is one thing in our process that I would like to add that I think is important.
Yeah, go ahead.
I talked about that we don't tack money on to some of the services that we provide. I want to kind of just walk through the process of what I mean by that and how it goes down. And so we may have 10 different trades or professionals working on your due diligence. Okay, that we give a lot of business to. We're not affiliated. We don't get kickbacks, and we don't mark it up. But we get contracts with them. And since we give them that amount of business, if you came and you said, hey, I'm going to do this all on my own, I can assure you that doing it on your own is going to cost you more money than a lot more money than it's going to cost us passing it along to you, because we have the contracts. And not only that, is it just dollar for dollar? A lot of these things are, did you hire the right company? Or did they go ahead and do some stormwater management that's over what was required? That may be kind of superfluous. That's going to cost you another $15,000 or $20,000 to build. Not only is it going to cost you more to design, but then to build. So that part of the process is streamlined, and it is in depth, and it's confusing. And like I said, we do that so we have the opportunity to build your house. There is not one other company out there that is doing that. And if you take kind of everything that we've talked about today, and I'm sure there's more that we're missing, but and you put that together, that's what the experience is when you want to build a custom home from Rotelle Development Company. That's what you're going to get, is a tremendous amount of experience and relationships and the processes that have been documented and that have been developed over decades to go ahead and make that happen. On the build side, we didn't even talk about the building side. The building side, like most of what we talked about, the process is very difficult, is the approval process and the permitting process. The build, we have that down pat, and we have, like I said, we've been doing that for 35 years, and our building crew and the team out in the field is just exemplary. I mean, can't be touched. So we have good quality control measures and everything on that. So I just wanted to kind of refine that point with regards to the approval process on the permitting and the gain of building permit. It is in-depth, it's arduous, and that we have all the professionals in each area that work best with each municipality. So, and there's a lot that goes into that, and that all comes down to experience, and that's not replicated by anyone. So if you are interested and you want to change a couple things in your house, and you want to make money and have it appraised for more, we're your option. We're your people, you know. And like I said, we've been doing it for a long time. We have a great staff, you know, some that are in the limelight and some that aren't. But I say this every year at our holiday party, I couldn't hand select a team any better, like who we have and who works for the company. Everybody's an A player, and that's a hard thing to say for a lot of companies. But I can sit in front of you and I can say that's a fact. That's a fact. So, and that's our secret sauce is the employees and the processes that they've developed over the years to make us successful and to make us have the reputation that you were talking about. And that's great, because hearing it from someone else is so much better than me saying, "Oh my God, we do such a great job." Well, of course I'm going to say that, because you know, you own the company. But testimonials, like that's where it's at, you know. And like I said, I'm not, when you said that to me today, to hear that, it puts a smile on my face, because we don't always hear that. You know, we're in a tough business.
Yep, negative reviews come out a lot easier than the positive. My
That's
goodness,
exactly right.
the amount of people that I believe and was told I do good work, and the ones that leave reviews are different. So, but well, Peter, Sheila, thank you so much for coming out and talking about Rotelle. Really appreciate it. I think it'll be a great tool to just kind of show buyers and sellers, anyone who's interested in the possibility of buying a new home.
Yeah,
and building it.
And I will say this to anyone listening: say, I'm not sure if it's for me. Call the office.
Yes.
I mean, that we are an educational building. We have an unbelievable office, and that come in and sit down and talk, or pick the phone up, or you know, do text chat, whatever your form of communication is. There's nothing gained, nothing lost. Certainly, we welcome any questions that you may have, and a lot of times we educate you, and people say, "Oh, it's just not in our budget, but we're going to do it." And 3 years later, they're like, "You know who came back? The Joneses. They saved up, and they're going to go through the process." Like, that's awesome. And so we're there for that, and we're there for the real estate community as well. If you have a piece of ground, and real estate agents don't understand value of land, but because it's not as prevalent, and it's not really what they're trained to do. We have agents calling our office all the time. "Hey, can you help us out? Can you do a lot scrub on that? Can you talk to me about this? Can you do our V-Spec program?" I'm not sure if we hit on that. But we have something called a V-Spec program for the real estate community that is just incredible. So it's like really simple that if you're going to sell a building lot, and it's a $200,000 building lot, and you're going to get 3% commission, it's $6,000 for you. We say, "Hey, let us put a house on that for $500,000 and have the package deal at $700,000. We will give you, is it 3%, 2%?
2.5.
2.5%. I'm going to use 3% because the math's easy, but we pay 2.5 just for you guys listening. But so now you have, okay, you're making $6,000 on that, but you just picked up $15,000. Really, it would be $12,500 if it's 2.5. But so additional for doing nothing, and I'm not the exclusive builder. So if you sell it and they end up picking another builder, so be it. We put the time and the energy in. We do the lot scrub. We show you the house that's going to fit on there. We do something that we have that's called a lot evaluator that we plug in. There's so much that we do in our office. It's hard to get in this podcast. Call us up if you're a real estate and you have land. We'll help you out. You know, we're not here to steal money from you. We want to help you make more money. We really do. And that was the biggest stumbling block we had to overcome in this business model, was when we told realtors that we were going to let us do a V-Spec. They said, "Well, you're going to steal our No, we're not." And now it's been over a decade, and we have repeat offenders all the time. "Hey, we got a V-Spec," but they're searching them out. So if you're a realtor and it's tough times, and you find a lot and you're like, you want to knock it away and say, "Well, I'm not going to take 3% on a $100,000 lot. Like, I don't even know what to do with it." You call Rotelle up and you turn that 3%, okay, that probably will amount to nothing because the lot's not going to sell by itself. where we have buyers coming in their office all the time, and we say, hey, we have a lot that's $100,000. Long story short is you're going to turn that $3,000 potentially into 15 grand or 10 grand. Like, that's making money for the real estate community. Everybody wins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I know I was talking real fast there, but
no,
hopefully you picked up on it.
No, I like it.
Yeah,
That's
10-4.
That's good.
Can you tell I get excited?
Yeah.
We love what
we got
do.
some excitement.
Yeah.
But all right. Well, that's
Cool.
good for me. Thanks for coming on, guys.
All right.